Yeah, so the audio is still broken, but I just realized I could just create a voiceover, so you don't really have to enable the subtitles unless you don't understand what I'm saying. I was running off the highway at this point and I noticed a border control, a checkup with police reinforcement, so they were clearly looking for someone. And you can see someone walking up to me, but I noticed too late and then I heard them calling me out, so that's why I was looking back. So I decided to turn around using this roundabout and to check. I was expecting here for to have to stop for a checkup for some reason, so I was prepared to stop the bike. I noticed he was waving at me, and then when I was close enough, I understood he was just wondering if it was electric or not. Alright, and a quick video in which I will talk about the 5 reasons that I bought an Energica and not a Zero. So reason number 1, the bigger battery. So the Energicas have a battery up to 21.5 kilowatt hours, which is 1.5 times more than the 14.4 kilowatt hour batteries in the Zeros. I know for Zero you can get a charge tank, well no, not a charge tank but a power tank, and then you get a bit more range, but yeah, that's an expensive option and it's still less than the amount you get with the Energica. Option or reason better number 2 that I went for the Energica is the fast charging. So you get a fast charger, CCS fast charging, which is not an option on the Zeros. Reason number 3 is the sound, the awesome sound that it makes, and it's not coming from the chain. It's in fact coming from I think it's visible. That's the electric motor running, and then the gear. There's a gearing from there, a reduction from there to there to drive the chain, and it's that reduction that makes the noise. Ik ga even wachten, want het zijn er paarden. Yeah, almost done. Reason number 4 to get an Energica is the better ergonomics. That's true for the SS9. So the Zero SRF, an issue that I had with the Zero SRF is that it the seating position was just too aggressive for me. So that's a great solution. It has normally it has an even more comfortable handlebar setup as well. So if you want to go for comfort, Energica SS9 for sure has better comfort than the Zero SRF. By now they also have the SRS, the Zero SRF, which also gives more comfort. And then reason number 5 is that I went for the Energica is I already had a Zero. So those are my 5 reasons to go for okay, so those are my 5 reasons to go for Energica. Thanks for watching. Alright, welcome back everyone. In today's video I will talk shortly about the Sport Plus mode. I made some, well no, on this channel I didn't make a video yet about the Sport Plus mode, but I did on my original Flemish spoken channel, and I think on Facebook I shared an article about how I discovered it. I didn't go into detail at that point, and in this video I just want to share that my decision that I will not go into detail on how to unlock the sport mode on your Zero SRF or SRS motorcycle. The reason being twofold. So on one side, I think I already have 0 people watching me because they took down my app, and from the Android App Store and also from the project website was also taken down. I'm still not sure how they got it taken down, because there was nothing copied, and the Sport Plus mode was not even mentioned in there, so it was not at all related to what I'm talking about now. And the other reason is for safety reasons. So it's a workaround, it's a hack, it's something that I've been playing around with, and I have to be honest, I don't even always succeed in enabling it myself. So it's not very stable, and it seems like it gets deleted or removed from the bike also at some point. I'm not completely sure. Maybe there is a safety checkup on the within the boot procedure that makes it go away. There are lots of things that I didn't figure out yet, and that's an important thing to notice, that it was a very hacky way of enabling it anyway. So for safety reasons, I will not explain others how to do it. It's not hard to do. The Zero software and implementations is nothing special. Well, it's not even properly implemented on most levels. So it's something that you can easily do yourself, or find someone that can do it if you really want to do it. But I would advise against it, for the simple reason that these bikes are just not made for continuous performance. The chances that you will damage your bike or any components on your bike, like the controller, the motor, maybe even the battery, can be damaged that way by pulling too much current from it. Probably the reason that they don't have it enabled yet, and there must be a reason that they don't have it enabled yet in production. One of the reasons might be safety, or possible damage to your bike having it run in that much of a performance mode. If you look, Zero has never created, what they made with their bike is a bike that is easy to work on, easy to maintain, easy to ride, and so on, very efficient to ride as well. But it's never been a high performance bike. If you want to have a high performance electric motorcycle, you have to look into the Energica models. They have real racing capable stuff with active cooling on both the controller and the motor, while Zero relies on the passive air cooling. They have no active cooling at all. Even if you look at the specs of the Zero SRF and SRS, you can see that the 110, I think it's 110-ish power output, that's only in short bursts. The continuous power output is only half of that. So that's a clear sign that the motorcycle will heat up and reduce output very soon. So in conclusion, if you really want to go for high speed, high power, look into Energica. And for me, well, I don't even have any racing experience, so I'll probably look into getting some track day arranged so that I can start practicing racing, guided of course. And for that I'll have to wait for that's my kid calling for help. Alright, welcome back everyone. Let's talk about the numbers and make the true comparison between Zero and Energica this time, the consumption numbers. Maybe I'll also discuss the issues I had. I'm not done yet with the numbers on the Zero. I still have to figure out which numbers are correct, so you'll see it in the graphs that I will show later on as well. That I'm still struggling with those numbers. The Energica, just the readout on the screen is very easy. But the Energica also had issues. It's not that the Energica didn't have issues. I had a lot of great input again. Thank you all for that. One of the best suggestions was to just have the two bikes right next, together with the two bikes at the same time, and then check the average consumption. I can tell you for now that the average consumption on my SS9, it has an average of 82 watt hours per kilometer, while the Zero has 72 watt hour per kilometer as an average, all-time average. That seems to match the overall expectation, where the Zero is a little more efficient than the Energica is. The initial idea was to compare just consumption, so I do realize that the ranges, the estimated ranges that I added in those Excel sheets, that is not realistic for several reasons. Also a great comment. Yeah, I don't. Sorry if I don't put any explicit names out here. It's just because I'm not that good in names. I do appreciate all input. There is a reason that I have the important names tattooed on my arm. Those are the ones that I need to remember. For my girlfriend, my significant other, I just use things like honey pun and sweetheart and so on. No, well, I do, but that's a bad joke. Anyway, the numbers. So that's the thing where I have the actual range listed. The red one is the Energica with a bigger battery. The orange one is the one for the zero if I do not correct the zero. But you have to know that the zero has a battery that is way smaller. You can see that the zero supposedly can cover more distance. That's just impossible. It is probably more efficient, but not by those numbers. So that's why I corrected the zero numbers and then ended up with the blue ones, which is more realistic, and also kind of matches the ranges of the Energica with the 13.4 kilowatt hour batteries. That's just the range, so that's not really what I was curious for. This one is the one that I was really curious for. That's the consumption. So if I tell you the 7.2 or the 72 watt hours versus the 82 watt hours, that's, I think, a good indication. But the difference with this graph is that it also breaks it up in, it's not an overall average, it's an average per speed. So the consumption, so lower is better. This is at 50 kilometers an hour, this is at 70, at 90 and at 115. The blue one is the zero and the red one is the Energica. If you look at this graph, then you can see that the zero is slightly more efficient at lower speeds. But as soon as you go 90 or 115 kilometers an hour, you see that the Energica is more efficient. So that the Energica has a lower bar on these two. And that's probably because of the difference in gearing. So the gearbox does add some friction losses, but that is overcome at higher speeds because of the motor just has to do less RPM to reach those speeds. So, and that's also, if I'm not mistaken, New Zealand did also a comparison between his 0S and the Energica Evo, and his conclusion was also that on the highway the Evo was more efficient. Ah yes, let's not forget to talk about the issues I had with the Energica. The most important issue was that the indication of the speed on the dashboard is exactly 10% too high. So that means when I want to record the 90 kilometers an hour, I had to in fact write 99 kilometers an hour on the dashboard. That's also why it's a good idea to write the two together and then check the numbers. What else? I had some minor issues, so it's very easy to read the number. The other issue I had with the Energica was that I did put the zero in eco mode, and in eco mode it's limited to 120 kilometers an hour, which is 115 on the dash. That's why those numbers on the spreadsheets are 115. And then for the Energica, if you put it in eco mode, the speed limit is 90 kilometers an hour. So I did test the lower numbers in eco mode, but then for the higher numbers or higher speed numbers, I did use the rain mode, because that's also a limited output mode. How to continue with this? Well, I first of all want to really get better numbers from the zero. So I'll start by doing more comparisons, changing the numbers, the units on the dash and so on. Alright, thanks for watching. Okay, welcome back everyone. In this video I'll quickly go over the issues I had with my zero. I say quickly, I had a few issues, so I'm not sure how quick it will go. Yeah, it's covered currently because I took the GS out instead of the zero for once. I'll do my best to I'll mention the problems I had, and then I'll also complete with some information that I found on the internet from people having other problems that are typical for this zero. It's only SRF and SRS, so it won't be for the previous zero models. It's very specific to this model. The first thing I had, and it was already broken before I had to go in, so if you buy the zero after 1000 kilometers you have to go in for a quick checkup, which is normal for most of the bikes you buy new. But in my case, this switch, there's a switch at the bottom of this for this brake lever. That switch is used to toggle the brake light when you use your brakes, but also to initiate the brake regen which you can program into the bike. So you can program that the bike starts braking on its engine based on you relieving the throttle or you using the brake. That first service is also the only service that I paid for. The brake switch itself was replaced for free, and they also they have an official recall for it as well. Normally I did pay for my first service, but normally I understood from Zero that you shouldn't have to pay any labor cost for the first service. But that's a very small issue. If you have this issue, you could also just replace it yourself. It's a very basic switch, 2 wires coming in. Another smaller issue that also happened to mine is that for some bikes, the early bikes, the hinges here for the latch of the tank storage compartment, so here you have some hinges, those would be of the wrong type, causing this line, you see this black line, separation between the lid and the tank itself, that would have a way bigger gap than which is visible over here. On this bike they already replaced it. This was also an official recall from Zero's. If you have that issue, they will replace it for free. That's also done for free in my case. And then I had one big issue. Yeah, I had a smaller issue with the firmware update. If you put in charging pistol, it locks and you have to switch the key on once you want to release it. But at some firmware update, what initially was in place was that it would release by itself if the charge was complete, but they changed it that you really have to use the key to prevent theft, I think. But with that update, there was a bug in the system causing the latch not to release once you switched it on, and you had to switch the bike on a few times before it would release. That was a strange bug. Similar to the bug that is currently in the firmware 18 is also very strange with the limited range. I don't have that issue because I don't have the firmware 18 yet installed. But then a big issue that I had that did get me stranded a few times, and I think it was caused by me washing the bike. I used it, well, before COVID-19 I used it daily, so it gets dirty quickly. Well, this one isn't, but like, you see my jizz, I just used it once today. You see how dirty it gets. So I often rinse it very lightly, but somehow water still infiltrated. I got the explanation later on, but the thing was I got insulation errors on the dashboard, and I couldn't start up the bike, I couldn't drive away. It would still show up on the dashboard, everything was okay. Well, not everything was okay, it would show the check engine light and some errors popping up from time to time, and I couldn't get it into drive. So normally if you start it up, now you have these two symbols, these two indicating that you can drive it. If you toggle the switch and you put in the side stand, then those go away and you get an icon here indicating that the bike is live and that you can ride it. That didn't happen anymore. Instead I would get the check engine light, and from time to time there were also errors like insulation error, 12-volt battery system issues and so on. Several errors that kept returning. I didn't feel, if I was able to ride, I didn't feel any changes in the power delivery or in the power modes that I used. It was just showing the errors. But if I keyed it off while the errors were on and I keyed it back on again and the errors were still there, then it would refuse to go into drive. It was in repair twice for that error. The first time it was away for like a month and a half. It was around this period, but the previous year, so around Christmas. That probably also is part of the reason that it took so long. I heard from the technician that they fixed it in like 2 days work, but they had to wait just to receive the parts from Zero. It was fixed in the Netherlands because there is a Zero headquarters in the Netherlands, and there they fixed it for me. But then when I got the bike back and I started riding again, the third day I think it was, I was riding in the rain and the errors returned. So at that point I knew how to work around those errors, so I could still use the bike, but it wasn't fixed. What I did then was contact my dealer, so not Zero headquarters, but my dealer, explained that the error came back, and then he promised me that he would order the parts in, and once he received the parts, I would put the bike back in service, and then they would fix it in a few days and I would get it back quickly. And if you start up the bike, you can hear a big clicking noise. That one, that noise wouldn't happen if it was in error state. But that's it for the issues I had. So the only real big issue I had was that issue with water infiltration. If I do wash the bike, I'm very careful to wash it with very light water spray, never with high pressure. And I also try to stay away from this area. I just try to keep my water spraying on the wheels and just slightly on top. I will have the charger installed next month. They should install it for me, so I'm afraid that they will have to update to the latest firmware as well once they install that charger. So I think at that point I will have the range issues as well. We'll see. I'm not sure if it will happen, but I'm afraid so. Yeah, and I was on the road today to go for a test ride on an Energica. I had an appointment to test an Energica EVA SS9. They also had a normal Energica EVA. I did sit on both of them, but the test ride didn't go as planned. But I'll try to make a separate video about that thing happening. I just finished test riding two Energica models. I was able to test two models, the SS9, the one showing here, and then the Rebel as well. That will be visible later in this video. I did have audio problems, so you won't have audio all the time. I did include some background noise, for instance here. And that was my GPS navigation instructions that were recorded perfectly. Issues. Anyway, this is the SS9, so the handlebars, what I noticed was that they were very high, very comfortable, but also very wide. It reminded me immediately of my GS, my BMW. And the seating position as well. You're sitting up rather straight thanks to the high up handlebars. The legs as well are not in a very difficult angle like the way the SRF forces you to. Instead here the pegs are a lot lower, so you can sit more comfortably. It's also a quite flat seating position, so it's very comfortable. It's way more comfortable than my SRF for sure. And then there were two things that I wanted to check on these Energicas. Well, I know the facts about the battery options and the charging options. I won't elaborate on those in this video. If you want to, I can make some more in-depth content about that, but for now it will just be about the riding experience. They are known to be heavier, those Energicas, than the Zeros, and to make more noise than the Zeros. So that were the two things that I was focused on, besides the ergonomics. But as I explained already, the ergonomics were perfectly fine, especially for this SS9 model, which is the more comfortable one of the two. The noise that you can hear in some parts of the video, that's what you hear. It's very present. It wasn't bothering me. It does get quite loud from time to time, especially if you pin the throttle. It's very similar to the way that the motorcycle with open baffles, for instance, can get very loud. At some speed the wind noise will overrule any of that noise. It's not a chain, it's there are videos showing that it makes this noise as well without chain, so it's really something in the reduction gearing. And then so that's for the noise. It didn't bother me at all in the end. I did like it even. It really it makes you want to ride it harder, and it's kind of enjoyable. And then the other thing was the weight. I have ridden it around in some light traffic. I had to do some stops, and like this, for instance, slow riding. I had no issues at all with the weight. It went perfectly fine. When you're parking, then it's noticeable, the weight. But that's really the only moment that you can notice it. And for that they have a perfect solution with the park assist. So the kill switch is it's a 3-position switch. Push the switch to make the bike live, and then if it's live you can also push it again for a longer time, and then it will go in the park mode. And in park mode you can toggle it between forward and backwards, so you can drive it slowly forward as well with the park mode. So it's a perfect solution for parking. That's probably why they called it that way. But then I got this bike, so this is the Rebel. That's only available in the 21.5 kilowatt hour configuration, so the new version of the battery. Again, there is some noise. It's very similar in noise, it's the same drivetrain anyway. It does have a bit more power. I believe this one has 107 kilowatts, whilst the SS9 has 80 something kilowatt. But you can have it also in the SS9 Plus, and I believe they call it the RS then. That's a new model, then it will have the same output as this one. And then here I was parked to explain some of the functions of how you set the ride mode and brake regen, because on the zeros you have to set it, you only can pick the ride mode, and the regen is linked in the ride mode. And here you can pop up a menu with the switch on the left module. There is a switch in front of the bike that you can trigger to enable the menu, and then on the left you have all the ride modes, which was Eco, Rain, Urban, which is similar to Street, and then Sport. And on the right side of the screen you have all the regen options. That's I think it was off, low, medium, high. So you can pick either option on either side independent of whatever mode you're riding in. So that's very easy. Plus the regen is also a lot more pronounced than with the Zero motorcycle that I ride myself. On these, even if you put it on medium, if you slow down it will get stronger the more you slow down. And even in medium you can use that to get to a stop when you reach traffic lights, for instance. It's very easy and very easy to configure. Ergonomics wise, maybe quickly, the things I like, the steering is a bit more forward. These are long bikes but nothing extreme. I didn't, on this model, that's very personal, but on this model I didn't like the seating because I was always sliding forward towards the tank, well, the tank's position, and the pegs were very much a lot higher than the ones on the SS9, so your knees are bent a lot more. And here I was asked by someone at the side of the road about the bike. That's something very common to happen if you're riding electric motorcycle. Mostly it happens at charge stops that people start asking questions about the bike you're riding. I think the most common question if it's a hybrid or a full electric. And then I've made some more footage of me riding it, test riding it around. And here I'm backing up my own Zero to get home. Well, not even my own Zero, my loaner Zero. Okay, welcome back everyone. What if I told you that you can get more range out of these bikes for free? All you have to do is subscribe and watch this video. And I mean like actual real more range, not just adapting your riding style to get more range, but really for the same riding style get further by teaching the system that there is more battery to use. 3 disclaimers. First of all, I'm not responsible if your bike explodes. Well, I don't think you can get it. It's easy to do. You don't need any tools and so on. And I'll go in more detail. as we go. I'll try to keep the video as short as possible. Disclaimer 2, it's something that if I'm talking about we, I mean the community, so it's something that we discovered together. I'm just sharing it here. And then disclaimer number 3, it's something that works for the Zero. I don't know if it works for Energica. It might work for Energica, but I haven't looked in, Energica. I haven't looked into how the Energica can be read out and so on, so I don't have any details on the Energica so far. But for the Zero, I can tell you that it works. And not only on this bike, it worked. I'll show you at the end of the video, I'll show you on this bike, but we have other bikes that we've tested this on, so we are pretty sure that this thing actually works. To understand what will happen or how it's, well, you don't need any tools, it's very easy to do. I will be using an OBD2 reader to read out the amp hours of the battery that the BMS system, so the battery management system, the BMS thinks this bike has. The 14.4 is in kilowatt hours, so watt hours is a means of comparing systems, the capacity of a battery of a system and different voltage systems. So for instance, if you want to compare the Energica with the Zero, you can use the watt hours. But the system itself is aware of its current voltage that it uses, so you can use amp hours, and the system is working in amp hours. So amp hours is how much energy this battery can store, so how much energy you can put into this battery, and then of course also get back out of it. The amp hour rating, Brandon has a nice article about it, how he discovered the actual amp hour rating of these bikes, and that is around 114 amp hours. When I did a first readout of my bike, it already reached on the clock, it had already 11,000 kilometers done. And the amp hour rating that you can connect to it over the OBD2 port, and then you can ask the BMS, so the battery management system, how much amp hours it thinks the battery has left. And it was reporting to me 112, which is a very nice number if you reckon that 114 is the maximum it should have. So I was pretty happy with it. I started sharing those numbers, other people shared their numbers. We were seeing numbers like 109, 106. I also had that blue, the Seabright Blue Standard Edition Zero SRF as a loaner when this bike was in repair, and that one had only 645 kilometers on the clock when I did the first readout, and it was showing me 106 amp hours at that time, so also a nice number. The only warning I want to give you in this video about the battery is you should never, and Zero recommends that as well, you should never leave the battery below 30% state of charge. So if it goes below 30%, always make sure to charge it up as quick as possible. But at some point, it was around the time that the issues were reported with the firmware release version 18 with the limited range and with the magic charging stuff and so on. That's also when I had the demo bike, so I started testing things on that demo bike. Someone posted a number of, it was below 100, I think it was even below 80, it was 79, I think, if I remember correctly, 79 or maybe 76 amp hours, which is pretty low for these bikes. So at that point we knew something was going on. I also had the loaner, and I managed to fix the magic charging and the limited range on that bike. And what I did, I ran it completely empty, fully charged it, and then did the firmware update, and then it was fixed. So I thought the firmware update was the fix. Together with the other people that had issues, we discovered that it was not the firmware update that fixed the problem, because they also did the firmware update and didn't get a solution. However, they did get better range once they did the run to empty and fully charge again. So, and when I say run to empty, what I did with my own bike, the furthest I went with my own bike was when it reaches 0%, I did like 8 kilometers and then charge it up. That's the most I did myself, but I can't tell you how much your bike will go beyond that number, because it's very specific to your bike's condition, so it really depends on your bike. But then someone else on the internet who helped me out a lot, thank you. You can find him on EMF as Never Easy, so thanks a lot for doing it. he went all the way. He started testing on his bike because he has range issue. He had range issues at that point, and he had already the latest firmware. And he discovered that if you keep running it at 0%, you keep going, at some point the bike on the display will show an error. It was something like battery depleted, I think it was, and it will completely refuse to ride. Again, you probably won't harm the bike doing so. As long as you put it on the charger after it and you don't leave it in that state, then you won't harm it. I can tell you that Zero also recommends it to their dealers for some specific cases, to just run the bike fully empty and then charge it up again. So it's part of the Zero routine, or the solutions that Zero recommends to their dealers anyway. The awesome thing is, he did so. He had to push it back home. He charged it up, and the bike reported a higher amp hour rating. So somehow the battery management system in the bike was taught or reprogrammed or learned how that the battery was bigger, and at that point was calculating, so all the calculations on the dash for the range that's left, and when it reduces the power output and so on, it's all based on the number that the BMS thinks is the right number. It will simply give you more range because it thinks at that point the battery is still the 114 amp hour battery, but the battery management system now thinks that there is more left in it than it was thinking before. So if you have range issues, but even if you don't have range issues, I totally recommend doing this trick. So to sum it up, what you have to do is just ride it to 0, then keep riding it until, and I'll try to record it in this video on my own bike, then keep riding it until it shows a message that it's fully depleted and you can no longer ride it. So you will notice when it decreases power output and so on, but you'll be able to ride it at 0, and it will take some time on 0%. Depending on the state of your bike, it will take some time before it will show you that error message. But once it does, take it home, or maybe best to do it at home, and then put it on the charger right away. So never leave it so never leave the bike below 30% state of charge. Put it on, let it charge fully to 100%, and even let it balance after that. So keep it on, and you'll have more range. It's as simple as that. I'll finish this video by doing the test on this bike. I'll give you a reading of the amp hours before and after to prove my points. Thanks for watching. Okay, I did something crazy. I bought a new bike. Yes. Well, by now I already shared it on Facebook and so on, so I'm not that good at keeping secrets. But let's agree upon this. You guys just act surprised and I'll just make this video. So this is a reveal video of my new bike. I used to ride Zero SRF. I love that bike still, I like it a lot, I still have it. But now I got a new electric bike. And the thing is, I only have the Zero for this summer. It's now spring. This summer I will have it for 2 years. But already the electric stuff is advancing that fast that the one I have now has, for example, it has the battery on, and the battery is one of the biggest components on these electric bikes. This one, the one that I now bought new, has 50% more battery capacity. So the capacity of the Zero that I have times 1.5. That's the capacity of this one. I don't know yet if that also translates to 50% more range and so on. I'll find out while I'm using it. But it's looking very promising. And well, if you haven't guessed it, or if you didn't see the pictures already, yes, it's an Energica. I went for the SS9. It's the plus version, so it has the bigger battery. And I went for the SS9. I test rode the SS9 and the Rebel next to each other. And the Rebel was very fun to ride. It has a bit more power output than this. the battery is the same. I did like the seating position on this a lot more. Wait, I'll just focus, I'll move away from the frame and I'll just let you guys see the bike instead. And you can pick the color of that part, which I picked yellow, and then the headlight. You can also choose between the bluish, which is still visible here, that blue part, or the black one, so I picked the black one. I couldn't change that part, so that part is still blue. You can buy it completely blue, well, this part in blue as well, matching that blue, or you can buy it completely black, but I already have a black bike, so I thought maybe we should go for a little bit more color this time. I like the seating position on the SS9 more than the Rebel, and I didn't like the sloping seat of the Rebel, so I like that seat a lot more. But I swapped, or I had the handlebars of the Rebel swapped in place. So normally the SS9 comes with those black handlebars that go more up and backwards, so that you have a more upright seating position. I've been riding it now for, I've done around 60 kilometers by now. Well, we can see how much I did. Oh, 48, so almost 50. It's on the first charge still. It was charged up to 100% and now it's at 80%. But it's a new bike, so I've learned from the Zero that the battery has to be broken in, that the range improves when you start using it. So I expect the range to improve, and it has to calibrate and so on. But yeah, so far I'm really loving the ride. I wouldn't have bought it if it wasn't. So let me just quickly walk around. So that's the retro. I do like the Rebel, the look of the Rebel, but I didn't like the seating position, so I don't mind this this look. It's also a very nice look, right? Well, that's personal anyway, so. If those pictures haven't convinced you yet to get a Rebel or another Energica, just make a test ride. Brakes, for example, very strong point on the Energica. Motor as well, being cooled. And well, the big ass battery, it's 21.5 kilowatt hours. That's massive. It's full of these nice details, like even on here. And the sound, oh, I'm starting to like the sound as well. The chain, yeah, it's chain driven. It might be that I keep the Zero for the rainy days. Let me show you one thing. If that doesn't convince you to get one, then I don't know what will. Awesome, right? I noticed those lighting up when you're riding as well. I don't know yet when they light up. Maybe it has to do with the power. I haven't been riding it very hard yet. Really an awesome bike. And there will be a lot of more videos coming out on testing, riding, using it. So yeah, if you want to see more things about this awesome bike, subscribe, leave a thumbs up. Leave any requests you might have, and I'll do my best to make it happen. Okay, I was dressing up because, well, changing into my riding gear, because I want to take the Zero out this time for a quick ride. I just checked, and on my own charger, which is limited to around 7 kilowatts, but I'm single phase, so the Zero only uses its 2-3 kilowatt charger, so it's limited to 6 kilowatts. It shows 5.8 on the dashboard, but I noticed that even at 95% charge, it was still going full 6 kilowatt speed. So I was wondering, because I know that the Energica has a tendency to start throttling down, given from 24 instead from 12, so it drops from a higher charge speed to begin with, but already starts at 80%. And also there is a down limit on it as well. You cannot fully charge it, or not at full speeds. When you go below, I think the threshold is 25. I still have to do some tests on the Energica to notice or to write down the actual threshold, but I know, for instance, that starting from 30%, then it's fine. At 10%, it starts throttling if you charge from 10 to 80% on the road with the Energica. But I want to know what the 12 kilowatt limit happen when that's limited, at what charge state that is limited. So I'm taking it out to a 12 kilowatt, no, a 22 kilowatt charger. This is set up for 7 kilowatt. There are many 11 kilowatts on the road. I just need to check that I find the 22 kilowatt. Okay, so it's not with a wire. Luckily I brought my own, but it's a pretty short one, so I'll have to move around a bit. Yeah, Energica has a slow forward and backwards, which is nice in cases like these. Oh, plenty of wire. I'll override it right away. I still need to use my badge to initiate the charging. Accès non autorisé. Okay, it's going. It probably just picked up another batch NFC from my wallet. That's not my charging screen. Okay, now it's going at 1 amp. I hope you guys have some time left today. Plenty of energy generated there. Okay, so I found a little one close by. This one is working up to 11.67. Yeah, that's about the maximum current the system allows. It's at 80% sock, so we'll see when it drops. It will only take 11 minutes at this speed. Okay, so at 90% it started dropping. Still 11 kilowatts, but that's already 10.7. That's already 1 kilowatt less than what I got at below 90. So there we got our answer. It drops as soon as 90 kilowatts. No, 90%. So from 0 to 90, that's what you can use. So at 95 it's dropping to 7.4 kilowatts. Okay, welcome back everyone. I want to share a quick overview of a trip that I did with my Energica recently. Did 500 kilometers in total. I have 3 screenshots that I want to share with you guys, and I made some footage while riding with the GoPro, and I had a helmet mounted camera as well. Okay, let's quickly go over the stats first. That's the first screenshot of Yamaha My Ride app that I used to record the whole trip. So it shows the 485 kilometer distance that we did in total. Riding time was 7 hours and 35 minutes. Total time was 11 hours and 37 minutes. The average speed was 64 kilometers an hour and the top speed was 122. For the first section I used the highway. On my way back home I didn't. Those screenshots from the previous shots, that's the Yamaha My Ride app, a very useful app. It's for free. You have to register once when you first use it. But other than that, there is no cost involved, and it just works. You have to. I just hit record, and it records all day long. And then at the end, you just should not forget to save the route, because somehow I forgot to save it, so it's no longer on my phone. But other than that, you can export it as well afterwards. You get those numbers and so on. Very nice app. Can totally recommend it. Since I was riding with a friend, I took the Energica because it has more range. At least I thought that was a good reason to take the Energica, but in the end it turned out that it was the fast charging that made all the difference. It's twice the speed of the Zero. I have a 12 kilowatt charging Zero. It's maxed out at 12 kilowatt. This one does 24 kilowatt, so that's double the speed. And if you ignore differences in drivetrain efficiency and so on, yeah, you get double the speeds. Okay, and this next screenshot is a close-up of the route that we did. The first circle is where we met. So I was riding with a friend. He was riding on his BMW R1200 GS. Just because of that I arranged to meet there, and that was a carpool parking where there was a quick charger as well. State of charge for my battery at that point was only 20% left. That's the lowest I saw that day, and on full speed it took 30 minutes to get a full charge. Well, not a full, but to 80%. And we went ahead to the next charger that I could find on the map, which is that second circle on the map. That was at a gas station. At that point I had like 60 or 50% battery left, and I needed, I believe it was 20 minutes, around 20 minutes to charge, so not that much. You'll see in the screenshot where I show the charge times that at this point we charged for 1 hour. That's just because we had something to eat at that time. Then we rode again. Yeah, we had 3 types of chargers. So the ones near gas stations, then the other ones were near car dealerships. The next one here was near a Kia dealership. On the parking lot, it was one that we had to pay for, but we could reach it, and I saw other ones for Volkswagen, for instance. At this point I had like still more than 70% left. The charge time needed was only like 9 or 10 minutes. From that point on we drove 2 hours up to the point where we met for the first time that day, the carpool parking, where again I put it on the charger. At that point it was 20-minute charge that I need to 80%, and I think it was at 60% SOC, and I only needed 50% to get home because I did go over the highway, so I would have made it without putting it on the charger anyway. Quick warning before we continue, I made a screenshot of the app where I have all my charges listed. The timings in that app, that's how long I got the bike plugged in. But I made, again, I'm still learning with this bike, and I kept it in the charging station plugged in way too long most of the time. I was not blocking other users, so no one was waiting for me, but I should have really taken it out sooner. On the road it really doesn't make sense to charge it beyond the 80%, maybe 90% at most, but then the charging speed drops a lot. And then this final image is a history of the charges that I did. So the one at the bottom is the first one of the day. In total at the top you can see that I paid 20 euros and 81 cents for all the charges combined. The fast charging is a bit expensive here. Then the next charge was the one where we had something to eat, so that's why it took 1 hour. The next one was the one at the Kia dealership where I had still 70% left, so I only needed 10 minutes. Again, I had it on for 30 minutes. That's just because I was with a friend, we were chatting, we hadn't seen each other for like a year because of COVID-19 regulations. The top one is already again at the carpool parking where we met. It was my first long ride experience with the Energica, and I can tell you that it wasn't the slightly higher range that made all the difference here. It was the quick charging that made the big difference. We had, I think it was a 7-hour riding and 4 hours that we were goofing around. Alright, thanks for watching. This was literally my longest ride so far with the Energica. And this month I'll do another long ride. It's a planned route for electric vehicles, for cars. So it's quite long, it's 1,000 kilometers. I won't be able to make 1,000 kilometers. Just the time that I need to ride and to charge it, I don't think it adds up. But I'll do my best to get a proper distance. I'll at least get half of it, then I'll do my best. We'll see what happens. And then it will be time to put it in for its first service, so I'll see if I can report on that as well. Thanks for watching. Okay, new Zero Land. This is for you and the community. Quick test run with my SS9. So I have this GoPro setup. It's not ideal, it's a bit wobbly. I hope it will pick up, and I don't know what the closest focusing distances of it, so I hope it will pick it up. But I'll keep an eye on the screen as well, so that I at least have an idea of what happened. It's currently at 95%, which is perfect. I need it to be on this screen, so the top number, it's an SS9, so 200 Newton meters is the maximum. And for the kilowatts, 80 is the maximum on my bike. I should reach 100, which I can do legally on that road there. And I will do so at, well, I need to put it on sport mode, of course. Because otherwise when getting here, I noticed that the maximum output I got was like 49, so just below 50 kilowatts. Which is not even close to the, and I was in urban, I just checked I was in urban, so yeah, I need to put this one on record. Is it recording? The full battery recording, yeah. The orientation might be messed up. Well, we'll see in edit what happens. So ready to go, we'll see, I'm curious. Yeah, and then I'll do it for, just like New Zealand did, so I'll do it for 95, 90, 85 and so on. So I just finished the first tests, and at 95% I have 77 kilowatts at the most. So I'll continue my test. I'll write that down already. I'm at 91% for the moment, so I'll soon be able to test the 90% numbers. Damn it, dropped my glove. Yeah, I'll figure that out later. But I did, for now I did the test for 95, 90, 85 and 80, so I'm dropping now. And it has been limited to 76 kilowatt for all those percentages. I'll continue testing. Don't watch the average or the range that's left and so on, because I'm doing my best to drain the battery as fast as possible, just for this test, of course. But next will be the 75%. Okay, so I already dropped to 63%, so even at 65 I did the test again, and you can see on the graph, I just switched to the graph view, you can clearly see here I spiked, so I did a test, here I got a spike, so I did another test, and I'm just continuing. I still have 76 kilowatt output that I had at the beginning of my tests. No, I think at 95% I had 77 kilowatt. But then it dropped to 76, so I think it's been around 76 all the time. it's not that warm. It's 14 degrees Celsius, so maybe that also counts or makes a difference. But it makes sense. These bikes, the SS9, the Ego, the Rebel and so on, from my understanding, they all use the same components. So the difference is really is in the software and the implementation. I believe the Rebel and the Ego has 107 kilowatts peak power. They have to drop that number sooner to spare the battery and the motor or whatever that cannot handle. I think it's probably the battery that needs to be limited in output, not to damage it when the voltage goes down. I'm even opening up everything to catch more wind, to slow, well, not to slow it down, but to drain the battery. So the average consumption currently is at 17.4 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. So that's quite a high consumption number. And I have only range left with over half the battery. I have 63% battery left, and my range is only 56 kilometers, which is great for my test, of course, but not so great for days that well, it's a nice day. It's 14 degrees, that's probably about right. But I'll continue testing. Yeah, so the first limitation on output just occurred at when I dropped to 55%. 76 kilowatt was reduced to 74 kilowatt. So that's the first reduction. Now it's getting interesting. If I knew this, I could have started testing at 60% instead, but we'll continue. Currently going below 30%, and at 30% I still had 73 kilowatt available. So if I remember, the bar is orange right now. Alright, so my GoPro died. Well, it didn't die, but the battery is empty, so it's no longer recording. But I did see on the screen that at 25% the output again dropped to, it was 63 kilowatt at that point. Yeah, it was jumping around between 63 and 64, but it seems to always be around 1 kilowatt jumping around. But it was most of the time 63 kilowatt at 25 battery left. Then at 20 battery percent left, I also still had 63 kilowatt output, and at 15% left, it dropped again to 49 kilowatt output. So then it dropped to 49. I'll test again in sport mode just to have the final number, but I'll see where I get. But I might test it at 5% as well, just by switching again. But it's all on the way home, so I'm not sure if I can test at those speeds on my way home. I'll have to see if I can do it in a safe way. But so far I have my number. I'll put the numbers in the Excel sheet and well, no, in the Google sheet, in the Google spreadsheet, and then I'll share it as well.